Ladies and gentlemen, today is June 9th, 2015, and this is the Knkl Show, episode 236, where we learn to be better artists. My name is Kienan Lafferty, and you might be noticing there is something different going on in the background. That is right. We are in the girlfriend's apartment because we are helping her move from good old San Francisco back over to Utah. And while I'm over here during these 2 weeks, I will be pre-recording these shows and sending them on over to you. Today, what we're going to be focusing on is good old Design 101. Many of you guys have been asking that I talk to you guys about my design thoughts, things that are going through my head during it. And basically, I've laid out some simple rules before. Told you guys many times that we can do a whole daily on that. And that is what today is all about. But before we get into the actual tutorial, got a bunch of awesome submissions coming in from you guys on the lovely lane. So thank you guys so much for not only liking the Knkl Show on the Facebook, but also submitting your awesome art. And to do that until they get the little, the photo thing fixed. Normally I'm able to see these all in like a really nice, efficient tiled format. But for now, we got to do it the old school way, basically scrolling one at a time. And you'll notice there's an abundance of sexy ladies. So thank you very much. We want to see some more of that. More of that up on this good old timeline. But now it's more of an actual lane. So I guess it is. It is very much a lovely lane. So yes, thank you to everyone who has submitted. There's so much stuff since I didn't get to it last week. So let's go ahead and speed it up just a tad bit. But if you want to take a look at these for yourself, it's actually very easy. You just go to that link and down in the bottom left, Knkl Show, facebook.com. Just type that in. Then what you do is you just go right here down to post a page, and then you click that little cryptic little arrow, that tiny little arrow. You click that, and then you can see all the submissions by people. So come on over and get some cookies. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the good old tutorial. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's move on over to the desktop. Zoom it back out a little bit. Stylus in hand, and let's do this thing. First thing I like to do, many of you know I like to darken my background so it's a little easier on the eyes. I like things that are easy on the eyes. Canvases, cars, women, everything. Let's go ahead and get into today's design topic. All right, so basically my entire design process can be simplified into just this, to this simple thing. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and draw ourselves a good old box. I messed up that line, but whatever, it's all good. Hey, that'll add to it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys the difference between a good design and a bad design right here with two lines. Good design, bad design. Okay, did you see what I did there? Okay, minus this. Okay, so did you see what I did there? Okay, so the difference between those two designs is the divisions of the spaces. Now you'll notice in this space we have this is about the same area here as here, right? Same area here. They're all divided equally, all equally divided. And this is what we call a bad design. This is something that we don't like. We don't like to see this because it's not found in nature and flowers and crap like that. But what we do like to see is something more like this. A division of medium, small, and large. Okay? Now this is basically your Design 101. You always want to have this going through your mind as you go, as you start designing things. But we're going to go a little bit further than that. We're going to actually we're going to draw some armor. We're going to draw some faces. We'll draw a few things to kind of just show off this design technique a little bit better. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a new layer here. And let's say that we're going to be designing some armor, okay? So many of you guys have seen, there was a really old tutorial that we did on armor, and I talked about just knowing like the basic ideas of how armor works, right? So let's say, you got your little chest piece. Okay, so here's our head, okay? We're just gonna be laying this out very, very roughly because I really want you guys to understand the principle here. I want you guys to understand the principle more than just making things look nice, because you gotta know the basics first before you start trying to look cool, okay? So that's what we're focusing on. Okay, so armor can be, we'll just focus on the torso today too. Okay, so armor can be broken down into just a few simple ideas, a few simple shapes, okay? So we're obviously gonna have our torso piece here, right, the chest piece. And then you're going to have this opening, right? This opening, if we were to see through this x-ray, this is the pauldron. That's what you call a pauldron. If you could see through that, you would have this opening where your arm is basically going to come out and down like this, okay? And there's your hand. Okay? So there's your chest piece there. Now the pauldron actually connects right here. Usually most of the time the pivot point would be right at the same angle of where your shoulder would move. That way you could have a good range of motion, you know, back in those days. So you want to make sure you have your pivot point right at that angle where your shoulder is going to start pivoting, okay? So we have shoulder piece. Usually I just make it a simple shape kind of like that, okay? Super easy. And then the next thing that you would do is you want to make sure that there's a lot of different types of bottoms that you can add onto the chest piece, but most often I would see something like this. It's sort of like this has a real name, but I totally forget what it's called. So I just think of it as like an extra skirt that comes down and covers the hips, okay? If you were wearing pants, your crotch would be right there. Pants would come down like that. And there you go. Okay, so you got the skirt that comes down, protecting the hips. Protecting the hips. And then you can have all kinds of cool stuff that happens here, whether it's like leg armor and all that stuff. But we're not worrying about that right now. We're focusing on the torso. Torso only. Torso only. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And that arm is way too short. I know. Let's go ahead and lengthen that arm a little bit. Lengthen the arm. Okay, and this is an androgynous figure, to say the least, because I don't know exactly if I want to make it a guy or a girl yet. So we're just leaving it kind of up in the air, okay, because we're just laying out our general shapes. This is usually how I like to start off all my armor designs. Just thinking about simple shapes, okay? So now from the pauldron, we'll have, you know, obviously your, sometimes it'll have like a layer thing happening. Sometimes there's like a second pauldron that comes down like that, kind of starts going down the arm. That's one thing that you could do. And for this case, we'll just kind of stick with that. Now there's something really cool. There's a piece of armor that happens basically on the elbow, as well as the inside of the arm. And basically it's kind of like again, you want to think about that pivot point, right? Think of the hinge that your arm operates on. If you want to think of it as like a screw, or basically that's the pivot point of another part of armor. And this part is called the coutier, I believe. And it's sort of like it basically mimics the fold of the arm, right here, because you want to think about it. You want to be able to bend your arm while you're wearing this. And then on the other side, here's the pivot point right here. On the other side, you will have an elbow guard. Okay, like that. Now, if we were to draw that from the side, a perfect angle, they usually look like this. See, here's where the bend of the metal happens, and then you'll have this area for your arm. I feel like this is turning more into like a designing armor thing more than more than anything. But this is just as important too, because a lot of people ask me about this type of stuff. Okay, so you can do this. Other ways that you can also design armor for the arm is you can also eliminate this, the coutier, basically the thing that bends there, and you can just turn it into part of the bracer, which is another thing that I like to do. So like the bracer can come down, and then that elbow pad just comes right off of the bracer. So you could also do that, and you can build it off of that. But for this case, actually for this case, I think we will do that. It's because it's a little easier to build off of that. So let's go ahead and just make it so that way we go ahead and lose that. Let's just make that elbow piece built right into the gauntlet, or rather the bracer. Gauntlet is what goes on the hand. But we're not going to worry about that yet. Okay, so here we have a basic idea of how armor works, at least in the torso, okay? And we'll probably continue this again into next week for like the bottom pieces. But for right now, we want to focus on this. Okay, so here's what I want you guys to start thinking about once you start building off armor, or start building armor, or designing stuff. Designing armor and designing all that good stuff. So you've got your basic body shape over here, right? So go ahead and shrink that down a little bit. And I want you to duplicate it a couple times. So a cool way to do this is I like to hold Alt, right? Pick your little move tool, which is up in that top left corner. Hold Alt, move it to the right. Oh, look at that. You can automatically replicate things. Super easy. All right. So here's what I like to do. We're going to go ahead and start over here. And what you want to be thinking about mostly is your silhouettes. You want to be thinking about your silhouettes. So how is this armor going to look from the outside? We're thinking about the outer edges of this armor. Is there going to have like, and don't worry so much about making it work. Don't worry about making it so much realistic as more so what looks cool, okay? Because you've got the general workings of it, and then you can kind of like focus on the shape first and then figure out how to make it work later. I found it works really, really well. So let's say we want like some spiky shoulder type thing, okay? Maybe it looks like this, and then maybe something, you know, like that. It's got like these interesting, I don't know, like antler things, okay? Or this could be like a cool, like a cowl that comes back. You know, it's like this headdress thing that sticks up behind the character. So just start doing that. Another thing that I found that's really fun to do is to just use the pressure sensitivity of your tablet to your advantage. Just kind of like start coloring things in. Coloring in shapes like really lightly, like this. And then what I found is really cool is to flip your stylus around, and then what you can start doing is kind of cutting things back out of it. You can cut things back out of it. So say you want the inside where this connects to the chest piece. Maybe, you know, you're working with sharp edges here. So maybe you want it to look more like this, right? And then you can go back in and kind of clean up that edge. See how now we're starting to get something out of this? So it's like, okay, well, we got like this line that's going up here. Let's have a line that also kind of goes right up to that second point there. And again, it's more like adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, if I can get my words out properly. All right, but this is basically how I go about designing things off the very beginning. But notice that there is a method to my madness. If we go back to what we originally talked about, right? Remember what we said? Small, medium, large. You always want to be thinking about this shape. Small, medium, large. Okay, so let's take a look at just this shoulder piece. And let's figure out why it looks good to us. Okay, let's go ahead and grab ourselves a different color here. For notes, we'll take a look at this. We got large shapes happening here. The small is the trim. Most of the time I found that trim works really well for being your small details. So small details, and this is our medium, right? Now you could also turn it into this. You could also make your medium shapes by doing this. You can have your large shapes here, and then you can start adding in extra lines like this. You can start doing stuff like this. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So this is where the real design stuff starts coming in. Same thing. See that? Large right here, small, medium. And then you can continue that, say, right up to here. You can go and erase a little bit of this out. And look at that. Same principles at play here. Large, medium, smalls. And voila. You have Pauldron. You have awesome Pauldron. Pauldron, as they used to say it. I don't know, I just made that up. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the chest piece. So another thing that really helps me to figure things out is once I start getting a shape language, I want to make sure that I continue that through the rest of my armor set. Okay, so what is the shape language here? There are curves happening. Oh, let's go back to the notes. Get that note color out. There are curves happening right here. Curves, 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 and points. Curves and points. So this is basically going to dictate our shape language, which is another very, very important thing with designing, is you want to make sure that you don't have, because here's what you don't want to do. You want to try to stay away from this. It's like, okay, well, we've got curves and points. So now what we should do is we should make the breastplate have like circles, right? Like circles and points or something like that. Like just like put a circle in there. Yeah, okay. And see how that kind of doesn't really work perfectly. It still works okay because it has like curves in it, but it could be done a little bit more eloquently. A little bit more, put a little more thought into it. So let's go ahead and do that. One of the things that I really do like about this here is the layering, like just the layering of these plates. And that's kind of what I want to mimic. So I actually do like this shape coming up right here like this. So I actually want something more like this. And again, notice how I'm just kind of laying stuff in, being very, very messy right off the bat too, because I'm not too concerned about making everything clean, everything perfect. I just want it to look, I'm just trying to get ideas, more than anything. Okay, so we've got one layer there. Let's have another layer right here. Let's have another pointed thing come up like this. Yeah, there you go. Cool. And I really like this nice, large open area right here. Large open area. Feels good. Feels very good. Very good. Let's have that trim come back in there like that. And wouldn't you know it, you're starting to get a cool looking armor set. Now, here's another cool thing. See these little thingamajigs that are going through, these little cut-ins, they're embossments that are happening in the armor set. We also want to bring those in. Remember, consistency. So let's see if they look good there. Yeah, it looks okay. Let's try maybe, let's try this shape here. Instead of having them go straight down, maybe have them look like this. And then we can continue them up into the chest piece. So they'll look a little more like that. You see what I'm doing here? I'm just basically repeating the shape languages and the design choices that I've made while thinking of the original rule. Small, medium, large, small, medium, large. Always be thinking about that. If there's ever a point where you start to feel like your design is starting to look a little bland, or it's looking a little kind of, it just doesn't look right, it seems kind of boring, well, it's probably because you're starting to separate all of your areas out into similar or identical spaces, right? So here's an example. Let's go ahead and call that one good for now. We'll revisit that one in a little bit. Let's move on to this one. And let's show a little bit of some of the problems that you can run into with designing with the wrong shape language or with the wrong rules. So a common thing that you might want to do is be like, okay, well, armor looks like this, so I don't want to go outside of the silhouette too much, because then people might not know what it is my character is wearing. So let's just stay with these nice, safe shapes. Okay, well, we got to put like some lines in it or something so it looks different. So let's like do this. Okay, so let's go like one there and one there. Cool. Wow, awesome. We got 3 spaces that are exactly the same size. Awesome. Man, I bet that's never been done before. All right, cool. Breaking the meta. That's what we're doing. We're breaking the meta, the design meta right now. Okay, so, and let's make sure we do it on the other side. Cool. All right, I'm feeling this. All right, so let's take that same design language and let's put it here. Divide that chess piece into 3 exactly perfectly spaced areas. And same thing here. Cool. Oh, wait, but we're being too consistent. We're being way too consistent. So let's like put like a star here. Let's like put a star or something like right there. Yeah, cool. And then let's like put some trim on that. Yeah, cool. Very, very cool. All right, but you see what I'm saying here? Like there's nothing really interesting about this. And in fact, it's very annoying to your eyes to look at something like this, because not only does it look stupid, but it's all divided into very similar shapes. So there's nowhere for your eyes to look to rest. I think that's really what it comes down to. Is it's areas, you want to have areas of high detail and then areas of rest, because your brain can't take in that much information at a time. At least most of our brains can't. And so it needs time to rest. It needs a place to kind of sit down, catch its breath. And if you have something like this, there's nowhere for it to go other than to look away, right? It needs to look up here to rest. But if you have something like this, the brain can say, oh man, this is really cool. It can look really closely at like these small details right here. But then, oh man, rest is just close by. You can take a rest right there. Oh man, look at all these awesome intricate details in the chess piece. Oh, but there's this nice area of rest right here, So you always want to be thinking about that. Areas of high detail, small details, and then areas of large rest. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's do one more. Where did I put this? Oh, there we go. One more armor set, and then we're going to call it good, people. We're going to call it good. One more refresher. One more refresher. Okay, come on. Come on here. And I am sorry that I can't do question catapults today because we are doing pre-recorded. But maybe we'll give a shot at a live stream because I got like a little wireless card that's supposed to be able to pick up the internet, and it says it's ready for like a USB 3.0, but the USB 3.0 on my computer I think is jacked up, so that's not working too well. But as soon as I plugged it into like an older, like a USB 2.0, it's working just fine. It's working just fine. And the internet here, my girl's internet is actually really good, so maybe we'll try a live one, maybe for a Thoughtful Thursday or something. But no promises. All right. So let's go ahead and get back into this. Okay, so we did points and curves last time. Oh, speaking of that, really cool shapes to keep in mind while you're designing are things like diamonds. Diamonds make awesome designs. Teardrops make awesome designs. Anything that's kind of like asymmetrical in some way. Like one side is asymmetrical. Obviously, it's symmetrical this way, but a teardrop is not symmetrical the other way. You know, the diamond is, but it's just a little bit more interesting than a perfect square. You know what I mean? It's a little more interesting than a perfect square. So trapezoids. I really like to do this type of thing where you'll have like layers. Let's see if I can replicate this. So layers that look like this, that type of thing. This type of thing is very interesting for the eye to look at. So let's go ahead and try out, let's do the teardrop shape. Let me show you what you guys can do with a teardrop shape. So let's say we put that teardrop shape like right there, okay? But then what can we build off of that? Well, we can say, okay, well, let's have our big area here. Let's have a big area, and then we can have a small area right there, and then an area of a medium area right there, okay? But then let's say, okay, well, we want to break the silhouette. So let's bring this piece of metal up like this. Bring a piece of metal all the way up like that. And this can be like maybe a jewel or something in the shoulder piece, right? Cool. All right, now we're already getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere really nice. Really nice right off the bat. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take that same teardrop shape and let's put it right on the chest. Put it on the chest. Well, let's make it upside down though. Let's make it upside down. That'll make it more interesting. And then we can go right into, oh, my favorite thing. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. AKA Keenan's favorite design ever. Keenan's favorite interlaced, whatever you call it, shoelace design. Okay, but we're running into an issue here. Can you guess what issue we're having in the chest piece? All these pieces are all divided into the same size. So what we're going to do to avoid that, so let's go ahead and redo this. Let's redo this. So here's what we'll do to avoid that. We'll keep this going down like that. We'll have these areas here. And then what we'll do is, let's say, oh, I know what we can do. Let's have those braided pieces going down this way, like this. And then we'll kind of do it like this. So boom, 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 boom. That way we can still have that design, but now I've constricted it, or I've placed it into an area that's of smaller detail. And then we have this area of rest. Grand. And then we can have, say that instead of the hip pads, maybe this can be like a coat, or like rather like a robe that comes down and kind of hangs like this. And there we have a nice big area of rest. Whew. That was close. That was close. Nice big area of rest, and then this can come up like that. And see, there you go. So now you have big areas, you got medium areas, and areas of small details. Let's also make this a gem. Why not? Why not make it a gem? And then you can have some trim along this as well. I always like to put trim on stuff. Trim always looks good, especially when it's right next to a large area. large area, which is what's happening on the chest. Imagine that. Imagine that. All right. Now, since we have cloth down here, I want to also make sure that we have cloth up towards the top, right? Because it's like, well, it could be like a waist sort of, it could be like a cloth that hangs from the waist. But hey, you know, it'd be even cooler is if it's like more like a big robe, like a really cool decorative robe. So let's have some of that cloth coming up over here. Maybe it's like a hood. And there you go. Very cool. And make sure that that shoulder piece also comes up off that edge too. Don't worry so much about perspective in the beginning. I would say just mirror that shape. And again, also don't forget you can add in, rather press lightly with your brush, and then you can go back in and start adding things. You can take stuff away. Be like, maybe I'd like a little design like this. A little design like this on the edges. Kind of draw that back in. Draw those lines back in. See how the design begins to take shape? And it's almost like you can do whatever you want as long as you keep in mind that thing. That is your magic rule right there. Okay? You guys are going to make awesome designs now that I've taught you this. And by the way, I did not come up with this. This is brought to me by the amazing iron stylist, Michael Marino, iron stylist. You guys know him. He taught me, and ever since that day, my design technique has never been the same. My artwork has never been the same. Because I always wanted to know how concept artists were able to come up with all these awesome designs. Like, how did they just know how to make it look good? That was my biggest question. How do you make it look good? Like, I can come up with all kinds of like ideas, but they never look proper. Like, they look strange to me. Whereas all these other concept artists, they're just like drawing circles around me, and their stuff just looks so good, so dang good. So I had to learn how they did it, and I did. I figured it out. Or rather, they got tired of me. They got tired of me trying to figure it out, and they just came up and told me. They're like, "Look, you're not doing it right. Here's how you do it." I was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, well, that was easy." And there you go. All right. So I hope that helps you guys out with your designing. Again, this stuff is very kind of rudimentary, but the basics and all the ideas have been shared with you now. So now you must go on and become amazing concept artists. Try this out for yourself. I guarantee you, if you keep in mind those points that we made today, the small, medium, large. One more time. Small, medium, large. Small, medium, large design. And remember our shape language. Shape language. Give those curves, give those teardrops, give those points. Make sure you're replicating those all through your designs, and you guys will be freaking awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube since this is pre-recorded. Sorry we could not do Twitch. We may try later this week for a live show. Again, that is barring that the internet will work properly, which I think it can. I really think it can. I have faith. We'll give it a shot later this week. But until then, you guys take care, and I'll see you next time.